Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back or welcome to the channel. Here's Psycho again with another video. This is not a pickups video. This is going to be what I said I was going to do in the last video, where I go through recently beaten games. There's quite a few here. Not anything a crazy amount, but quite a few for recently beaten anyway. Um, I'm just going to go through, talk a little bit about each one, and whether or not I feel like it deserves a playthrough. Um, but before I do that, I am going to go over some stuff that actually helps me beat the game. Um, I'm not going to say that I have never YouTube something or Googled something, but for the most part, if I'm playing through a retro game, I take it all the way old school, and I will use the magazines if I have the ones that feature that game. I'm going to go through a couple of these because there were so many. I loved part of the video game craze for me back in the late 80s, early 90s was the fact that there were video game magazines every single month. And I bought, not all of them, I bought primarily, there were two that I bought, and then it turned into three, and I'll explain that when the time comes. But I remember having a subscription to, the year that I got my Nintendo, my NES, I had a subscription to Nintendo Power. I was there day one, guys. I don't have the first issue anymore. And as a matter of fact, if I remember correctly back then, I had multiple copies of the first issue of Nintendo Power. I used to draw on them, pull out the posters, and looking back on that, I was about 8 or 9 years old. So, yeah, you don't know any better. You don't know any better. But yeah, I had my foot in the door when Nintendo Power had first even released. And back then, if you had a subscription to Nintendo Power, a paid subscription, obviously, which is really the only kind of subscription, if you had a paid subscription to Nintendo Power, they gave you a copy of Dragon Warrior for the NES. And so that's how I ended up having that game, and I did play through that and complete it with my brother. I don't have that game anymore, any of them, but the first one, at least, is on my list. The other three, obviously, every NES game I don't have is on my list, but they get pricier as they go. Dragon Warrior 4 is ridiculous. But who knows, maybe one day. You never know what you're going to find. But anyway, I'm going to just go through a couple of these magazines. There was, back then, here's one that I never ever bought, but I don't know, I thumbed through these because I got these recently, so until, like, maybe a year ago, I had never even seen one of these issues of this magazine. Um, it is called Video Games and Computer Entertainment. I guess this was popular. I had some friends that read it or whatever, but I don't know if it was just that I discovered EGM and GamePro first in Nintendo Power. So, EGM and GamePro came out every month, and then EGM was like bi-monthly. They came out with EGM 2, so every 2 weeks these guys were putting out magazines. So I had more than enough to read without this particular one. So I don't know how great this is. I thumbed through it. I've never actually read one, but I have a few now. So Video Games and Computer Entertainment. And then there was also this. I didn't usually see this one around too often, but I had heard of it. I didn't know many people that had this because for whatever reason these weren't sold in the stores in Florida that I grew up around. But it is Game Fan. I also thumbed through this. Looked like it was like a pretty cool publication. I have never read one, but yeah, looks interesting. And then for all the diehard Sega guys, Sega tried to counter Nintendo Power. I don't think this was quite as successful, but you had Sega Visions. I have a few of these. I had Sega consoles, but even to this day, I feel like I'm more of a Nintendo guy than a Sega guy. I don't hate Sega. I have Sega stuff, but yeah, when I'm hunting, I don't, at least around here, I don't really come across much Sega stuff as opposed to Nintendo cartridges and Super Nintendo cartridges when they are posted. Not a whole ton of Sega, so I guess the people that have that really liked it and hang on to it. But yeah, Sega Visions was out for all you guys that were the crowd that didn't maybe like Nintendo as much. I don't know. And then this was one of my favorites. I bought this every month. I fell off after a while, but I had, God, I'd say until I was about maybe 16, I used to have a bookshelf in my room that had little cubby holes. And I don't know, it probably had about 10 cubby holes. And that entire bookshelf was filled with Nintendo Powers and Game Pros and Electronic Gaming Monthlies, all from when they were new. And one day I was cleaning my room and I was like, I'll never use these again. And I threw them all in the trash. I threw them all away. Oh, God. Hindsight's 2020, guys. But this was one of my favorites. I loved Game Pro magazine. I loved that the people that did the magazine had like characters for themselves. They had a lot of cool features. They had Swap Pro, which was their trick section. The reviews were fun. The previews were fun. They were short. You know, I was a kid, so you don't want to read like a 10-page article on a game when you're that young. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I like Game Informer. And back then, Game Informer was similar to this, but you know nowadays they do cover stories, and they're probably about 10 pages long, and I do read through them. But I'm not a kid anymore, so you know I feel like they put just enough info for each game to where you didn't get bored reading about it, and then they moved on to something else. And this was also the time when I was collecting these magazines. Was the time when the Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, like every fighting franchise was just blowing up. But I have a lot of EGMs and stuff over here that have Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 3, just, you know, Street Fighter Alpha, everything, like Tekken, Virtua Fighter. But I didn't drag any of those out. I dragged out the ones that I thought had really good covers. This was another one of my favorite one. I bought it, or favorite ones. I bought it every single month, and that is Electronic Gaming Monthly. Um, yeah, if you know, you know. Similar to Game Pro. Most of the guys use their real name, but Sushi X was always a mainstay for this magazine. I'm pretty sure he was probably there from the start to the finish of the publication. But I loved reading EGM. And I think mostly because of the fighting game craze, because they always had a fighting game on the cover. When Mortal Kombat was coming out, or Mortal Kombat 2 was coming out for the home consoles, and they were covering it, it was like I just could not get enough. It'd be one page with a few pictures, and I would just be like, I would look at that page over and over again. And then the video game craze was so crazy back then that EGM put out another magazine, and this one had a lot of the features of Electronic Gaming Monthly. I guess we'll call it 1, but they put out EGM 2, which, like I said, had a lot of the same features, but they had more strategies. And yes, this one does have a fighting game on the cover, Street Fighter Alpha, and I guess that was when the first one came out. This magazine was cool too. I really liked it. I would even read the strategy guides for games I didn't have, or even if I knew I wasn't going to get them, I still read the strategy guides anyway. And then I pulled a couple of these out because these are this was my favorite, and it still is. But guys, Nintendo Power magazine. I love every feature to this day of this. Now these are a couple older ones. That was one, Link to the Past was new, and that's the Game Boy Mega Man. I have a ton of Nintendo Powers. I mean, nowhere near like a full set or anything, but I do have quite a few of them. And I do actively pick them up. I'd like to get some of the super early ones. I know these are pretty early, but I want to get the, like Castlevania 2 cover, the first issue, the one that has like DuckTales on it. You know what I mean? So those are, I mean, I'll buy newer ones. I don't have two, but I do like to pick up old Nintendo Powers. But they are getting pricey. And then remember when Nintendo, what it was like, it was a strategy guide, and it even says so. But if I remember correctly, this magazine was supposed to be a Nintendo Power issue, but they decided to devote it just to the one game. And that is the Super Mario Brothers 3 strategy guide from Nintendo Power. And they had a bunch of these. I have a couple here. I have the Ninja Gaiden 2 one, which I can't believe I have because I have to play through Ninja Gaiden 2, and I might dig that out, and I will use that strategy guide to play the game. But yeah, these were cool. These were like the early days of strategy guides and guides, and I believe only Nintendo was doing them. I don't think I've ever seen a Sega strategy guide, at least not like a first party one, not being published by Nintendo or Sega themselves. But yeah, these were cool, and they had a bunch of them. Like I said, I gave two examples. I can't really think of any more off the top of my head. You guys can leave a comment. I probably even have a few more of them in there. And then they started getting to be like their own entity, and that's when these came in. They had like the top secret passwords, which had just had a bunch of Super Nintendo codes. Or no, that was I'm sorry, that's not true. It had codes for regular NES games, and then they had the Game Boy one that had come out, and then the Super Nintendo. And that's when they started getting, like, the covers were, excuse me, they were a little thicker. The covers were a little bit different, made of a little bit thicker material. And I have a few more. I have a bunch more of those also, but I did not drag them all out. I had the 4-player extra in there, I believe, and a couple of others. And then all the way up to more recently, guys, like PS2 era. There's the strategy guide for Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Stories. This is actually sealed. I got this sealed from someone, and I just didn't open it. I don't feel compelled to. But yeah, they had. This is the evolution of video game magazines into strategy guides. There's one for Resident Evil 4. I forgot what this came out for at first. I'm wanting to say GameCube. So this is probably when the GameCube came out, that version, and they put this out. And then even right up to more modern times, there's a 360 one for Hitman Absolution, which when I bought Absolution, I played it, and I used this strategy guide right along with it. And, I mean, not initially, because I didn't have it initially. I think my ex-wife got it for me for Christmas, and I had already been playing the game for a while, but I think I remember using some of the stuff in there to 100% the achievements. I got all the achievements in Absolution. And right up until Wii, I mean, guys, Mario Galaxy, you got the Twilight Princess, and those, I mean, there was just so many options back then. And even now, like, strategy guides are still kind of a thing, but I think one of the companies shut down. I forgot if it was Brady Games or Prima or one of those. But yeah, I mean, there's just a little look like, you know, if I'm playing a Genesis game, maybe I'll pull a Sega Visions. But I do like to, like I said, take it all the way old school and and use the actual books. I mean, it's kind of a pain to not be watching the video because you got to turn the page and pause the game and read it. But that's part of the fun. That was what you did when you were growing up. So I still enjoy doing that. And if you stuck with me this far, we're going to go through another stack of games that I have recently beaten, and I'm going to tell you guys about them and whether or not I think you should play them. But before you do that, if you like the content, you like looking at the nostalgic video game magazines, consider hitting the subscribe button. Hit the thumbs up, leave a comment, let me know what your favorite game magazine was. I don't know what that was. And what else? Bell notifications so you know when I'm posting more stuff. Yeah, I usually start the video with that, but I figured maybe I can do like a little awkward segue into the next part of the video. But we're going to jump right into these recently beaten games. Now, there's a fun fact. Most of these games are NES titles, and every single one of them I beat in one sitting. I did not go back at all. I played through these. Even if it took hours, I died, whatever, figured out strategies, I beat all of these games in one sitting. And I'm going to start off with a game that technically I didn't beat because you can't. But, I mean, I played it for a long time and then you just finally give up because you can't win. But that game is Tiger Heli. I didn't know that, but if you play this game, and I think there's 4 levels, once you complete all 4 levels, it just recycles level 2 and I believe level 4 over and over again after that. And you can just keep racking up points and racking up points and racking up points. But that's it. There's no ending to this game. So if you got 10 minutes and you feel like shooting at some stuff, this is pretty cool to play. I mean, the gameplay is not bad. It's fun, but you can't beat it. At least I unless you play, maybe it's a thing like the old Pac-Man games where you play a million screens and then there's like a kill screen or whatever. But I didn't do that. I played it for a long time, and like I said, the levels kept repeating, so it got monotonous. Once you kill all the enemies on a level and you see everything there is to see, you're like, okay, I don't want to play this level 20 more times, you know what I mean? So, yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and count this as beaten, because there is not an ending to this. What's next? This game, I actually made a strategy video for this on my channel. Fester's Quest gets a lot of hate. I even talked about that. But this game is good. The only thing is it can be difficult if you don't know what you're doing. But it's definitely worth a playthrough. If you have to use, a video or whatever to figure it out, because like myself, you don't remember a lot of the stuff from when you were a kid. Go back and look it up, and even just play through it for yourself, just so you could say that you got it done. It's not a terrible game. And there's a trick with the keys that you collect to where like you don't even have to fight the bosses in this game. It's one hit kill if you use the key in a certain spot on the boss stage, and it refills your health and lets you move on to the next level, and refills all your equipment too. So glitch, yes, but it is quite useful. Fester's Quest is a good game, guys. It gets a lot of hate, but it's mostly because it's hard. And I understand that, because if you die anywhere in this game, if you make it to the final boss and die even one time, they let you keep the stuff that you found, but you're going all the way back to the beginning, and you have to go through the whole game. But honestly, once you figure it out, guys, you can do a no death run of this game. It is not impossible. I've done it a lot of times. Fester's Quest definitely worth the playthrough if you are an NES fan. Okay, the next game I actually picked up not that long ago, and I played through it already. Like I said, a one-hit playthrough. This is another game. It's not similar to Fester's Quest, but it's similar in the fact that it is a tough game, and if you don't know what you're doing, you are going to get your butt handed to you. And that game is Rygar. But once you figure out what you're supposed to do and where you're supposed to go, the game is actually quite fun. I don't remember this game getting as much hate as Fester's Quest, but I remember my friends that did own this didn't play it because they didn't know what they were supposed to do. And frankly, I didn't either. We would throw it on, run through the level, like climb up the ledges that are right at the beginning of the game, and usually die because we didn't know that we were supposed to be trying to upgrade our life. We didn't know that we were trying to find hermits and items. We don't want to read the instructions. Never beat it as a kid. I just recently beat it, and it's definitely worth the playthrough if you are an NES fan. Once you get used to the controls and the motion, because your guy does move kind of awkwardly, the controls are a little strange, but once you get used to it, this game is very doable, guys. There are some spots where when you finally figure it out or look up how to do it, you're like, how was I even supposed to know that I was supposed to do that? So a couple of spots in this game are like that. Parts of Simon's Quest where the whole game was like that. But I love Simon's Quest too. But yeah, guys, I finished Rygar, and it is definitely worth the playthrough. It is a good game. So far, we did the 3, and Tiger Heli, like I said, you can pass on that unless you wanted to sell it in the collection just to have it. But that's not a must play. The next one I finished, and it's not really that hard either. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3: The Manhattan Project. I was gonna say that this might be even easier than 2, but they're probably about the same difficulty. So, if you can figure out the patterns for the bosses and play through a few times and memorize where the enemies are coming from and what weapons they're utilizing or whatever, like, you can make it through this game. But it's a Ninja Turtles game, so I don't have to tell you that this is good. You already know that. But, yep, recently finished that one. Manhattan Project. Next one, Goonies 2. I love this game. I even loved it as a kid, and I beat it as a kid, and I recently beat it again. This is another game where if you don't know, not every item and not every collectible is mandatory to finish the game, but I did collect everything, and I got all the upgrades. And boy, did I have a hard time remembering how to do that stuff. There's a certain item in this game that you can only get by punching a woman in the face 5 times. And it's the only section of the game where you even have to do that. So I don't understand, like, maybe somebody came to work that day pissed and was like, fighting with their wife, and they're like, I'm going to program a sequence where you have to knock this lady out to get this item. But anyway, Goonies 2 is great. I love this game, and I love the 8-bit chiptune Cyndi Lauper music on it too. Great adventure game, but it is very easy to get lost. It is very easy to not be able to find out what you're doing. So if you're going to go into this game, maybe have something to help you along the way a little bit. But definitely worth the playthrough. Goonies 2 is fantastic. This one, I actually did use YouTube for some parts because I didn't remember everything. And I got very far in this game as a kid, and I never beat it. But I just recently did, and that is Metal Gear. The original Metal Gear. In this playthrough, like I said, I did use some guides. here and there. So I did collect every item, and I did beat the game. If you're a Metal Gear fan, this is a must play, a classic. Like I said, you'll be very frustrated if you don't have some kind of help, I think, anyway. Unless you're one of those purists and you're like, no, I will figure this out. Um, Definitely worth a playthrough, but quite complicated. As is this next one, Clash at Demon Head. I finished that one about 2 weeks ago, and it's similar to Bionic Commando in the fact that you can move around a map. But there are hidden passages. Well, there are hidden passages in Bionic Commando too. There's hidden passages and items that you have to find, and you have to buy store tokens in order. Well, there's one place in the entire game where you can go and use the store for free, but otherwise, you have to buy tokens from the store to be able to use the store again. But once you get into the rhythm, once you figure out what's going on, where you're supposed to go, what you're supposed to do, and you start getting more powerful, it does get a little bit easier. But this game is confusing at first also, so maybe bring a guide, but definitely worth the playthrough. I love this game. Clash at Demon Head is a classic. This one, I'm not gonna lie, I also used the guide a few times for because I played it as a kid, and I did beat this as a kid, but there were just a ton of things I didn't remember. But I love this game. It is Shadowgate for the NES. I did use it like towards the end because you have to put 3 items together, but you have to do them in a certain order, and I couldn't remember how to do that. So I looked up that, and I looked up a few other things that I couldn't remember how to find, and I did play through it, and I enjoyed the heck out of this game. It's not for everybody. It is pretty much a text adventure. You just control a cursor, and it explains everything to you in text, and you have to click on you have a bunch of options like pick up or look at or things like that. So not for everybody, but if seems interesting and maybe you'd be into it, check it out because it is good if you see it through. But it is hard, so I feel like most people would probably either get frustrated and quit or pick up their phone and YouTube like, hey, how do you do this? Next one, this is the one I haven't played it recently, but I used to play. I was playing this almost every night, and I beat it a lot of times because I just couldn't put it down, and I kept wanting to get good at it. And I talk about it all the time as Ninja Gaiden. I could probably put this on right now on my NES and probably beat it in like less than 30 minutes. I love this game. I just want to get as good at part 2 as this one, but I don't know why part 2 is like kind of intimidating me. I just haven't played it, but. This game is very hard, but once you learn the patterns and the little tricks and secrets and pay attention, just all you have to do is pay attention. How you can despawn enemies. You can make it so that the some sections the bats and the birds don't respawn constantly if you scroll far enough. Despawn axe throwing guys. There's just little tricks. You just have to find them. But this game is very doable and is very fun, and it controls like a dream. So if you're getting your ass handed to you in this game, it is not the game's fault. I promise you. This is a great game. If you have never played Ninja Gaiden, it's not that expensive. Go out and pick it up. It's way worth it. And then these two beasts recently completed within the past couple months. Zelda 1 and Zelda 2. I mean, do I really have to say? Like, obviously, the first Zelda, there were parts that I couldn't remember. Like, just basically just finding the dungeons. But I did get through it, and got through Zelda 2. I remember getting, I think, to Shadow Link, like, which is the second... Shadow Link is the last guy, because you have the bird thing before him. I could get to Shadow Link, but I never knew how to beat him, but there is a much easier way to do it. This game gets a lot of hate, but I love this game too. I really do. Zelda 1 and Zelda 2, they're so different from each other, but they're absolute classics. I love them both. And for the 2 people that might see this that have not played these Zeldas, go play them. What else? This right here. This is a simple game. It's just super repetitive. You have to gain levels by just killing a bunch of stuff. Super easy, the basic controls, But you know what? I don't know why I felt compelled to keep playing it, and I didn't mind. I was having a good time, and I finally beat Jaws. Jaws can be kind of tricky because you have to ram them with your boat when you use the strobes, but if you time it just right, you can ram the boat into them and win the game. But I don't know why, guys, but I really do enjoy this game, and I feel like maybe I don't know. I'd say I go back to it because I feel like I could probably beat it in 20 to 30 minutes. It doesn't take very long either if you're playing it. So, yeah, guys, if you can survive long enough to be able to power up, Jaws is not that hard to take out. Fun little game, and it was by LJ, or I'm sorry, it was by LJN. And then there's this one. Recently beat this one, Bionic Commando. This is another one where they pretty much let you go where you want to. You go to your get your choice of moving from zone to zone. The game is quite hard. If you don't pick up enough bullets to upgrade your health, yeah, it's very difficult. And there are some difficult platforming sections because you can't jump in this game. But they are pretty nice about the fact that if you get hit by one of the vans going from place to place, you could take out what I call the heavies, like which are the more powerful enemies. There's usually two of them in each scenario, and the items that they drop are continues. So you can just keep going back and forth to those particular zones, which aren't zones. They're just the jeeps that move around the map, and just get up. I think you can get up to 9 continues. When I played through this game, I made sure to never drop below like 6 of them because it does get difficult, but it is doable. And fun fact, spoiler, when you shoot the final boss, it is pretty graphic for an NES title. Like, I won't describe it. Like, I feel like you should see it for yourself. But Bionic Commando is one of my all-time favorites also, guys. Definitely worth the playthrough. Definitely worth checking out. It's pretty innovative for its time. Who makes a platforming game where you can't jump? Capcom. And you know what? It was really good. And what's these? Okay, so those were the NES games I recently beat. Now I'm going to move on to the Super Nintendo games. Super Mario All Stars. Now, excuse me. I've never beat the Lost Levels, but I've beaten the other 3 games on this cartridge plenty of times before. But when I'm talking about recently, I played the Super Mario Brothers 2 on here, and I did complete it. I don't have to tell you to play a Mario game. Mario 2 is a classic. It was different. It was the most different Mario there was, at the time. But I liked it. I thought it was great. Super Mario Brothers 2 is an absolute classic. And then these last 2 games, the Super Nintendo games, these ones are games that I did not play. Or wait, no, there was only one of them. I did play this one in one sitting. So the next one I played in one sitting and it took a while, was A Link to the Past. I always say this is my favorite game of all time. I try not to back down from that, but I just have in the back of my head, like, there are so many video games. But, excuse me, this one is just an absolute classic. I love this game. I feel like I don't really have to tell you to play this either. If you've never played A Link to the Past and you have a Super Nintendo, go get a copy of it and play it. It is definitely well worth a playthrough. Lots of stuff to find, secrets everywhere, cool boss fights. I mean, it does get challenging, don't get me wrong. Like the levels where you hit those stupid things that bounce you around and they knock you down, you fall down the floor and you have to climb up the stair. Man, yeah, it gets frustrating, don't get me wrong, but it's satisfying when you finally figure it out. Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past is an absolute must play. And then this one is too. This is the only one that I'm showing in this video that I did not complete in one sitting. I went back to it actually a few times because it is long and I got lost a few times. And this is also a must play. I should not have to explain why, but it is Super Metroid. I love this game, and this is a game I got for $10. If you don't know that story, go back a few videos and it's on there. I think like 3 in the Wild episodes ago. But yeah, this is one that I had to come back to. I did not beat this in one sitting. It's quite long. I mean, I guess unless you know already everything, and I didn't. I didn't remember. So I played it legit and found everything. And then I had a hard time discovering how, once I killed everybody, like, how the hell do I get to Mother Brain? And then I found it on accident where you go to the statue of the bosses and put the stones in there. Now, I'm not saying I was in that room way earlier when I first started because it's kind of near the beginning, but I didn't know what I was supposed to do. So, as I'm playing through the game, I completely forgot about that room and I stumbled on it again on accident just because I was exhausting every single option and I stumbled back upon it and then it was like, okay, leads to the fight with Mother Brain. I remember now. But yes, Super Metroid. If you guys have never played Super Metroid, go play Super Metroid. And that's it, guys. Those are the games that I have currently, not currently, but recently beat, which is kind of a lot, I think. And the game that I'm currently playing right now, DuckTales for the NES. The only reason that it's not on this video as a beaten game is because I died at the almost. I was like right near the end, and some random regular enemy killed me, and I ran out of lives. And there's no continues, so if you lose all your lives in this game, you got to start all the way over. So I was like, okay, that sucked. So I'm gonna stop, and I'm gonna make my video, and I guess DuckTales will only be in it because I'll be talking about that. That will be the next one I'll beat. So yes, I am currently playing DuckTales, and it is in the NES right now. I just took it out of there, and I'm gonna maybe go back to it tonight. I've also been playing modern stuff. I've been playing Assassin's Creed Origins because I never have. The last one I played was 4, Black Flag. I never played Syndicate either. So and I never finished Rogue. And it's been the Assassin's Creed games series, as I always told myself, is when I finish one, it's like okay, because I try to do everything. Not saying I do every time, but I spend a lot of time with Assassin's Creed games. So I always tell myself when I finish one, like okay, I'm good for about 2 years. But it's been more than 2 years since I played one, and I've never played Origins, and I've never played Odyssey. And Origins on Game Pass, and I believe Odyssey is also. So I started up Origins, and it is pretty good. So I might try to do a run through of DuckTales because it takes less than an hour, and then maybe play some Origins and keep checking that out. But that's all I got, guys. Recently beaten. That's going to be the title of this video, I think, because for some reason it kind of rolls off the tongue. If you like the content, again, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, hit the thumbs up, bell notification so you know when I'm posting more game-related videos and or music-related videos, which I have not done in quite a long time. But who knows? Who knows what's going to come next? I got some more game stuff on the way, but it's probably not going to be for at least a couple of weeks. So I'm going to have to come up with some other ideas. But if you guys like the content, again, do all that stuff I just told you to do. And that's all I got for this time, guys. Psycho out.